What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Tendo Show. I, of course, am Tendo, and to my right, to your left, is the Ivan. That's right. We're going to talk to Ivan today and not Hannah. That's a first for the Tendo Show. How do you feel about being on the show, Ivan?
Nervous. I'm about to vomit.
Well, I don't know exactly what we're going to talk about. Ivan and I have an incredible amount in common. Every time we hang out, we talk about our upbringing and our youth, and despite being from worlds apart, would you agree to that? Just being from different universes, we still went through, because we're around the same age, we kind of went through the same stuff. So there's some cool stuff there to talk about. Just stick around and find out what we get into. But if you don't know, if somehow you're really new to our channel and you haven't seen us make videos with Ivan before, on our main channel, we do a lot of thrifting stuff, and Ivan and my channel are quite similar. Quite similar. It's me and Hannah out buying dishes and toys, and then you and Monique buy what? Tell me what each of you buy.
Dishes and toys.
Dishes and toys. So we have the exact same channel. No need to watch both. I'm just kidding. Go subscribe to these guys if you haven't already. But we'll talk a little bit about thrifting today too. But I'm just I can't tell you, Ivan. I'm over the moon to be podcasting out on the road. I feel like I'm a real YouTuber now.
I got nervous when you asked me about it because I thought you were gonna bring all this crazy stuff,
right?
And I thought it was gonna just be machines all over the place.
You thought I was gonna wheel in my technology cart and just wire up your house?
You're just gonna bring your living room in, and
right?
That was it.
Well, if I could, I would. I definitely love you ever watch Steve-O's podcast?
Yeah.
His wild ride. I love the thought of riding around in a Sprinter, and he lives in it, in and out of it. Mm-hmm. And he has everything modular in his van where he can just throw up the microphones and get to it. And I think that's that's top-notch dream. I'd love to get to doing that kind of thing. But there's only we're on a trip right now. So if you're watching this video the day we post it, I'm editing and about to post our first travel vlog, right? And so I'm on this trip going to podcast and interview several people. So the next couple weeks, I'll have a lot of videos for you guys to watch. Speaking of which, the next one after this should be Hannah and Monique. So it'll be the first Tendo show without Tendo.
Hannah takeover.
That'll be pretty cool. So definitely make sure you're subscribed to this channel and you're ready for that. But I'm very excited to be out on the road, and I'm very excited to just stop at random people's houses I know along the way and get some cool interviews and discussions about things. But I'm not just saying this to butter you up. You're probably the one I'm the most excited about.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't get too excited.
I'll tell you why I'm excited, and I think you'll understand.
My life is just tacos and pizza.
Well, your life's just it's just surprisingly like mine. We were in bands in and out of high school, and we did stupid stuff, the same stupid stuff. And every time we talk about just even music, we're just we both talk about something. I go, yep, same. So I don't know. Maybe you guys might think it would be more interesting if I talked to people that weren't into what I'm into. But then I don't know. I wouldn't be that interested. I'm super into what you're into. Is what I'm saying. So that being said, why don't you give us the 1 minute story of who you are and where you're from.
Well, I came from a little town from L.A. known as Culver City.
Culver City.
Born in Culver City, raised in SoCal.
Okay. Well, explain to where... Okay, well, it's not going to be your 1 minute version if I ask you questions every 2 seconds, but where is Culver City in the grand scheme of L.A.?
It's up by Venice Beach.
Okay.
It's right next to Venice Beach. Actually.
So that's the northern part of L.A.
L.A., yeah.
Yeah, it's up top.
Mm-hmm.
Is it on the beach?
No, I wasn't born on the beach.
Is Culver City? Does it connect to the...
Oh, Culver City? I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know.
I've been there.
I was born there, but I never hung out there.
Okay, cool. Well, keep going. What else?
Then I grew up in the South Bay, and I just did stuff. I like toys. I like comic books. Mm-hmm. I like music. It's all stuff I'm still into, and I just kind of grew up around that stuff. Actually, music, because my uncle... growing up, people made fun of me because I listened to the oldies station.
Okay.
I wasn't into heavy metal or rock and roll. I loved the Beatles. I loved the Rolling Stones. I loved all that because my uncle always listened to that stuff.
Right.
So I grew up with a love for that old music.
Well, it's really funny to hear you say that because it's kind of... you're going to hear this a lot in this podcast. It's kind of the same for me. When I started playing in bands, in and out of bands in high school, we were playing metal.
Okay.
Headbang, breakdowns, just
Right.
But and all the people I was in those bands with, that's what they were into, and I was over here like not listening to any of that. But I could play the bass, so
Right.
I fit into that kind of group pretty well. But same, I was not into what everyone else was doing. But keep going. You were in some bands.
My uncle played guitar, so he always played guitar. He sang. He sang at the church. So that kind of got me into that. I actually have another uncle who was a drummer.
Okay.
So whenever we would go to his house, he had his 2 drum sets out. And one was like super set up, and it would fascinate me, but we couldn't touch it.
Of course.
And then there was the one that he was like, okay, you can play on that one. Go ahead. He was actually in a popular band, a Spanish band.
Okay.
What was their name? I don't remember.
Yeah,
now.
okay. I was going to say, we're going to Google it if you remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'll remember.
Okay.
I'll think about it.
Think about it, and I would love to Google it here and bring it up.
So him playing drums, we went to go to his shows. My other uncle playing guitar and stuff like that. I got caught up in it, and I liked it, and I wanted to play something.
So you were indoctrinated into the life of a musician from a very early age.
Yeah. And actually, when I first started playing drums, I didn't know what I wanted to play. I just happened to get band class in 6th grade. They were like, you're in band. I was like, okay, I guess I'm in band.
You got sucked in.
Yeah, and they're like, second, third day, they're like, what do you want to play? I was like, I don't know. I did not know what any of the instruments were. I was like, flute. I was like, flute. And I didn't know what a flute was. That's what the last person said. So I was like, flute. Yeah, me too.
That's hilarious.
Then I went home and I was like, Mom, I guess I need a flute somehow. And she's like, nah, dude. She's like, you're going to play drums because they're free.
That's true.
Yeah.
There was always drums laying around the band room.
Yeah.
The same way for us all the way in Kentucky. That's really funny because I actually did say flute, but I wanted to, and that's what I played all the way through high school.
Okay.
So it's funny. It would have been a funnier story though had you actually had your hands on a flute for like a week.
Right.
And just couldn't do it because it's not an easy one to play.
No, I'm glad I didn't do it.
Well, it's a very specific kind of air control with your mouth when you play the flute. So it's not a cool party trick, but the number of times we're out and about and with people, and I can like make a bottle or some small diaphragm thing whistle just by going.
Yeah.
And people are like, I can't do that. How'd you do that? It's because you learn to do that when you play the flute.
The hardest thing I played was the xylophone.
Yeah.
And that was because in order to play the snare drum, you needed to learn how to play the xylophone.
Really?
So I was like, okay, got it. A week, clink, 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 drums. And then I was in the snare, never played the xylophone again.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you might as well play the piano at that point. It's notes. It's staff music and notes to play the xylophone.
I just wanted to hit something.
Yeah. Were you in band all the way through high school, middle school?
Junior high and high school. High school, especially because you didn't have to take PE.
Really?
You were in band. Yeah, so.
You were into that?
Yeah.
That's funny. I think I have a kind of complicated history with it because I quit. I went to a Christian academy for my sophomore year of high school, and they didn't have a band alternative. And then when I came back to my regular high school for my junior year, they were like, well, because you went to that school, you lost out on some credit points. You're not going to have enough to take band. You can't do it. So I wasn't in band after sophomore. But it's funny because at that exact same time is probably when my mother bought me my first guitar. Well, it was actually my second guitar. I didn't care the first time, but then because it was an acoustic guitar, and then she got me an electric a few years later about that time, and I was like, this is my life now.
Right.
This is what I do. I play music. But, there's a lot of people that can kind of tell similar stories, but the reason I have a lot of fun talking to you about it, because, like, you're one of the people I know that, like, went out and played as much as we did. So how much playing in bands on stages did you do? Can you quantify that for us?
We never did, like, big shows. We did a lot of... Well, funny story is we got a road... What would you call it? A road guy that would...
A roadie?
That would get us shows.
Oh, like a book, like an agent almost.
Yes. I don't even remember how that story goes. I was a drummer, so I was just, whatever. I'll go wherever you guys want. Sure. But the thing is, he only booked Spanish rock bands.
Interesting.
We were a punk band that was just a garbage punk band, but it was still fun.
Okay.
But he was like, okay, yeah, I'll book you guys shows.
Were you all Hispanic or just you?
No, that's right. No.
Was it just you that was Hispanic or?
It was the three of us, the singer, bass player, and me were Hispanic, and our guitarist was a white boy.
Well, so you were majorly Hispanic,
Yeah,
but you weren't singing in Spanish.
No.
But this guy booked only bands that were doing Spanish music.
rock, yeah, just Spanish
But
rock.
he's like, you guys seem cool. Let's do it.
We went. I remember our first show. We went to this Paisa bar. By Paisa bar, they're told like the banda. They listen to banda. I don't know how to explain it. They have the Hispanics have the cowboy hats,
of course,
the boots and the shirt here open with the hair.
Yeah. The fancy dress and the
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I finished the story, but I'll tell you why I know what that is afterwards.
So we get on stage and we're like, what the fuck?
You followed that?
No, we were the first ones on.
You opened for...
Yeah, we opened and we were like, I was looking around and I was like, what are we doing here? There's just a whole bunch of Hispanics with the cowboy hats looking at us like, what are you guys doing here? We're all, studded up and, wearing all black and blah, 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 the whole punk thing.
Right.
And we were like, okay, I guess
this is what we're doing.
Our singer looks at us and he's ready to go. Let's do it. And
right.
But it was probably one of the funnest shows because they did not care.
Really?
As long as there was music playing, they even got up on the stage because we were up on a high enough platform and they were jumping off. Yes. And they were just like slam dancing on the floor, which was weird.
You know why that's hilarious? They've probably seen that on TV and they never had a chance to do it.
Yeah, so now they were doing it.
That's the best story I've ever heard. Well, let me ask you some more questions about it, and then I want to tell my version of the same story. Did that happen a lot with that guy booking your shows?
Yes, it did.
Well, because I won't tell the whole story yet, but I've got a good story as to why I didn't let anyone ever book our shows for us, because that's what happens. They just squeeze you in wherever they can, and you're playing with stuff that doesn't make sense. But did you still I want to know the question I asked earlier. Can you kind of quantify how much time of your life you actually spent like playing music with people? Mm-hmm. Like, did you play for several years and always do shows?
I probably stopped drumming in bands around 25 years old.
Okay.
I'm 39 now.
Okay.
So it's been a long time since I've played with a band, in a band. I always still crave it though.
Right.
I always crave it. I always want to get on a drum set and play and just...
Does it make it hard for you to consume live music? Have you been to shows and just been like a little bit distracted because you'd rather be up there?
I'm always distracted by the live show because I'm always watching the drummer.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
I'm always watching the drummer, seeing what he's using, how is he playing, what is he traditional,
right.
Is he regular? So I'm always paying attention to what they're doing.
That's interesting. That's not really the case for me. I do get a little distracted by the gear, the guitar amps, and especially if I'm in a position I can see the pedal boards. That's really where my heart is with music gear. I love guitar pedals, but I totally know what you're talking about. I don't do well. Hannah and I don't consume a lot of live music. I mean, the few times we've been to shows together, luckily it's been such ragers that like you just can't not pay attention, and that's good. But that's maybe I'm an attention, WHORE. Is that how you spell it?
For sure.
Hannah's eyes just got real big. Yeah. Is that how you spell it? Somebody help me out here. I'm not going to sit here and Google how to spell it. I'm just not saying it on YouTube because I don't want to be demonetized. But it might be some of that, but I just can't go to live shows anymore because I'd rather be doing it.
Yeah, I mean it happens also, or it'll take me back to when I was playing,
right? And
certain moments pop into my head when it was like I was in the pocket and it was just it felt good, Oh,
well, let me ask you this: since you're someone who's played as much music as I have, I kind of have this problem where I got so good at being in the pocket that I very often don't remember some of our better shows because I would just zone out that hard. Do you know what I mean? Did you ever have experiences like that where you just knew the song so well you just went into the zone and then came out later?
That happened to me where I went into the zone, but I went into the zone not in a good way. That when I saw the playback, somebody filmed us, I was off.
You weren't good.
I was
interesting.
I was good, but I wasn't with the band.
Oh, you were technically good.
I was like ahead, and they were behind, but nobody said anything. So
really?
I was like, "Hey, you all right, man?"
Well, when you're playing that fast, it's hard for a lot of people to tell. That's pretty funny.
And actually, especially playing punk music as a drummer, it's really fast, and I had to learn how to do it. I didn't know how to do that at first, but they're like, Can you play punk? A punk beat? I was like, yeah, sure, why not?
With that kind of thing on the drums, it's very easy for 90% of your songs to kind of be the same.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it's just same things in different orders.
Honestly, to this day, I don't know what our songs were about because I couldn't understand our singer.
Oh, really?
He was like a bad version of what's his name? Oh my god, from Nirvana.
Oh, Kurt Cobain.
The Marbles, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what he was singing about, but
That's funny.
I played the drums.
Well, my earlier bands that I was in were definitely that way. The first band I was in was me and some kids on our block, and we called ourselves Paperclip.
Paperclip.
But we spelled it wrong. PAYPERKLI, something like that. And I drew this badass artwork, and then my brother drew flames on it, and I digitized it. And it was super serious. But we were, 12, 13. It was really frustrating at that time because I was so serious about it at the age of like 13, 12, 13. I probably got the guitar at 12, and by 13, we were trying to make a band. And I made artwork, and I even started saving money for mowing lawns to buy my own equipment because I was already running into this problem where people wouldn't show up, or people's excuses like, well, I don't have instruments. And I was just like, I could just get people to come over and we could play. And so at one time we had a violin player, we had an upright bass player, just anyone that was a musician I could get to come be in my band. That was my childhood dream. But it went like that. My whole music career was like that. By the time that I was playing a show or two every weekend in and around Kentucky, it was me showing up somewhere with my van full of gear and a rotating cast of 20 different people at different times showing up to play with me.
Our guitarist did that. He was the only one with the job. And at this time, Guitar Center was doing the get a credit card.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to pay it off until a year from now.
Right. I've done that.
So we did that. I got all kinds of cymbals. He got amps. He got this and that. He's like, we don't have to worry about it for a year.
F it.
But probably like a month before it was due, he would be working 1,000 hours a week just to pay that thing
just
off.
to pay the credit card. That's funny.
Which now thinking about it, it wasn't even that much money.
Right. A couple $100 in cymbals, a $200
At
amp.
22 years old, though, that was it was a lot of money.
For sure. I think I took out a credit card, Guitar Center credit card, to buy a Gretsch guitar, and it was kind of the same thing. But I paid it off. I was pretty responsible with it. I paid it off pretty quick, but it was nice having that Gretsch guitar. It was the nicest guitar I ever owned. It was cherry red with gold tuners and effects, and then the back of it was white.
Oh, yeah.
Can you picture it?
Yeah.
What's the nicest drum set you've ever owned?
None.
None. They were always someone else's.
My singer would always jump into my drum set.
And break them?
Yeah. He knocked himself out once for 10 seconds because he jumped over my drums. He missed my drums.
Oh, come on, man.
Landed on his back on the floor.
That's funny.
That was funny. It was good times, though.
That's funny. Well, I've definitely straightened out some drum sets from the lead singer, but the first lead singer jumping off of it and stuff. But the first band I was in was that, and then the second band I was in was we called ourselves, and I'm curious if you'll know this reference. We called ourselves Matches Malone.
No, I heard you. It's what's funny? I heard you say that earlier.
Really?
Malone. You said something Malone.
I might have
Is that
been.
where you had a flashback or something?
Maybe. I have no idea. But let me show you this real quick. I'm going to. I don't even know what I was Googling before this. Oh, I just typed ASDF and that came up. Let me show you what happens if I Google Matches Malone. I'm sure the actual thing will come up. It's a Batman character, right?
Oh,
but what
okay.
happens if I search Matches Malone band? Oh, man. Actually, I bet you this is another band. It is. This is not us. Would it be funny, though, if I was in that picture?
That'd be funny.
I don't think we're going to come up because this was so long ago, and we used to have YouTube videos. And this is one of our posters from back in the day. We used to make these really dumb posters. But we're not going to come up. I wish I could show you. Look how Post Malone comes up. I wish I could show you more of it. But I actually removed all those videos from my YouTube channel because and the only reason I'm telling you this is because this is funny. Our main channel YouTube page that I have now, of course, like everyone that has a YouTube page, just because you have a Gmail address, is actually what was essentially my old band page.
Okay.
Because it was just, I only had one Gmail address, so at one time, I've changed it a couple times over the last 10 years to just be like whatever I'm working on. Mm-hmm. So my YouTube page Tendo on YouTube used to have these really terrible metal band videos on it of just me and some dudes headbanging and screaming.
I wish we would have saved a lot more recordings, but back in my day, we didn't have cell phone
Really?
cameras.
Well, as soon as I was in that band, I got my first job as a video shooter editor. So I was actually able to film every concert we ever played. And I've got most of it on, originally on DV tapes, but I've backed them up all to digital.
I have like a VHS tape of
Really?
a backyard show that we did.
That's
But
funny.
it's like you can't even tell who's who nowadays.
That's
because
hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, were you only ever in like the one band that you were in with your friends, or
One band that actually toured, and then other ones were bands we were just trying to get together. Trying to put together a new band, but it never really worked out. Just trying to get, because at that time there was the whole emo thing. The emo music was
Of
out,
course.
so every guitarist played the same exact way.
Right.
We didn't want to play emo music, but every guitarist we found played the same and all that. So we could never make a band that we actually wanted
right?
to.
Well, it's funny you say that because it was just metal for us. But when I say metal, I'm not talking Rob Zombie. I'm talking like, I don't know, what's the music from that era? Like, I hate to even start naming bands because they wouldn't be good examples. But like,
What?
our favorite band at that time, it was like A Day to Remember. And this
Oh,
was-
yeah.
But it was like that. But we never did the sing. We had a couple songs that were lighter because you could consider like A Day to Remember a good bit lighter. But we on the whatever they did on the heavier side is what we played. Matter of fact, we opened most of our shows doing one of their specific songs.
Okay.
That's how we got the crowd going.
That's funny. I can't imagine you playing that music.
Oh well, if I hadn't taken all that off YouTube, I'd play a little for
Yeah.
you guys because I've got Google ready on.
Did you have the hair?
Yeah, I had the emo hair. Matter of fact, our lead singer was a hairdresser. He was our screamer dude, and he would do my hair before shows. I'd go over to his house a couple hours early, and we do the whole thing. It was very serious.
I could never grow my hair out because then when my hair grows out, I just look like Jonah Hill.
Really?
Yeah, it just gets
Interesting.
curly and froey.
That's interesting. Well, I was serious about it, and it only got worse over the years up until I finally started my own band.
Right.
So my next band after Matches Malone was pop punk, kind of Blink-182, even more so like Yellow Card. And that was probably the least, I don't want to say the least successful. I definitely felt the best about it because I was finally just like, I knew enough musicians all over Kentucky. I could call enough people almost at any time to just show up and play a show with me. And it was the most fun. And we played a lot of shows for a couple years, but I could just never quite do anything with it. We just played like festival, not like big festivals, right? But like we have in my hometown, we have this thing called the Barbecue Festival, and there's like stages all over town during this festival, all over town, and there's a stage for like students, like the student stage. So I would always end up on that stage, and that was pretty much it. And that's the one I have the most footage of. And I've just got hard drives of footage of me screaming into a microphone in front of like 20 kids at once.
Yeah, you know what? Now that I think about it, all our shows were just at odd places because after that, we started touring with a band that kind of wanted us to play for them.
Right.
They were called the F Me Ups, but they used the whole word.
Okay.
And they were kind of like a Danzig, old school AFI wannabe type band.
Interesting.
Like they sang that way that the whole and all that
course.
stuff, and they liked us, so they wanted us to tour with them, and that was interesting. The bars that we would end up in or clubs, because they were like at the end of the night, those bars would turn into like vampire clubs,
Right.
and everybody would just be dancing with a cape and stuff, and it kind of always tripped me out as to why we were there, playing
Right.
punk music to these bands that wanted to listen to like Morrissey and Depeche Mode and just fly around the room with their cape.
Of course. Well, it's really funny you say that because I was thinking earlier when you first started talking like the bands and that guy booking you weird shows and stuff. I let a kid once book a couple shows for us, and he was excited to do it because he wanted to play guitar with us. Because I was one of the few people in our quote unquote scene that ever escaped doing the metal, and I would show up to these metal shows and play this pop punk, and it was kind of the same thing. People would like it,
Yeah.
and a lot of people were surprised that the audience would get into it because you're there for metal, and there's these kids, like you know how Good Charlotte gets a bad rap because they showed up to these scene kid type concerts and people hated on them. Like I think that's what people expected, because those bad stories for Good Charlotte was so prolific at that time. People expected that kind of thing, but we kind of would show up and do our thing, and people would be like, "This is weird, but I'm into it," and that would be that. But I've got another question for you. Could you name the bands that you've been in or played around? Because I've told you mine, and I haven't told you my last one yet because I'm kind of saving it because it's a good one. Could you name some bands you were in? Are you afraid people are going to Google it?
No, they could Google. I mean, the punk band, the one that we did the most shows with was we were called the Roosters,
Right.
and the other bands just never. We never actually got like a band name. We never really became a full band. We always just jammed out and tried to put together songs and stuff like that to be able to do shows,
Right.
but it never really formed into we're a band,
Right. Well, so what?
The Roosters was the name of the punk band that we were in, and people would always sing that Alice in Chains songs to us. The Rooster,
Really?
Yeah.
Well, my favorite band name that I was in, I've named a lot of them that I was in, but my favorite one was my last one. Right before I quit, I went to college and I met Hannah. And that was a band called Dallas and the Lads, and I always liked that, but I didn't come up with it. I think we called ourselves something else briefly, and then one of my friends was just like talking about a concert of ours that he was going to be at, and he was like, "Oh, it's Dallas and his Lads," and so we called our band Dallas and the Lads. And there used to be a bunch of footage on, again, my very YouTube channel where you could kind of watch that, but I've since removed it. But I think I just searched Dallas and the Lads on YouTube, and here's what's come up. And I don't think I have audio run on this computer, but I'll just give you a quick listen if this is going to load. And if it's bad, blame Ivan because his internet's bad. Oh no. So, like, you get the idea, right? And it just, that was actually a dumbed down acoustic version of one of our songs that was much heavier, much more pop punky. And that was us playing in a coffee house, which was...
Oh, this was the pop band?
Yes, that was Dallas and the Lads.
That was the Good Charlotte band.
Well, I use Good Charlotte as an example just to say that we would show up at places where we didn't belong. We didn't necessarily sound like Good Charlotte, but that's me looking a lot lighter. That's my buddy Kyle, who to this day, I'll go ahead and tell you, the three people that are sitting behind me in this image here are amongst, I wish it was better quality so you could see them. They're amongst the better musicians I've ever played with. The guitarist on my left in this image on your right that you're looking at has played for tons of country artists. He has done tour gigs, like real musician, which I'm a million miles away. And the other kid on my other side, top notch skill, like born with unimaginable skill, but kind of dead end hometown, maybe some drug problems. Just didn't really go anywhere with it. And the guy behind me is actually, he's almost deaf. He's only got like 10-15% of his hearing.
Oh, really? Phenomenal
drummer. But, he has hearing aids and stuff. It's not like he's sitting back there playing deaf. But, that guy, the drummer, probably only played 2 or 3 shows with me. The bass player was the only one that was constant. He played about every show I played with me. And he was good. He was just really good at what he did. And the guy in the hat at the bottom right of the image there, that's my little brother. But that doesn't, that part doesn't matter so much.
Little brother.
But we did that kind of thing a lot. We'd show up to shows where people were playing metal, and we would sit down and play our acoustic guitars. And it was weird because the energy changes, and not everyone's into it. But I have very fond memories of it. But if you search Dallas and the Lads on Google, that video is going to come up, and maybe my old SoundCloud or something.
Yeah, I think I've tried Googling our stuff before, but I think only old school flyers show up.
Oh, yeah.
Which we used to do that whole ransom note type deal, cut stuff photocopy. That
Oh,
type of
nice.
deal.
But you would actually do it?
Yeah, we would be at a Kinko's late at night cutting up
Looking like you're
magazines
making ransom notes?
Right, yeah. And then those would be our flyers, or that's what we would pass out, yeah.
That's funny. Well, I would say half of my YouTube job these days is Photoshop, is creating images. And my earliest learning of that was making band flyers. And I'm not saying I have my whole YouTube channel to thank for that, but there's a lot of skill sets I have that started in those exact days. That's pretty funny. But I don't know. If this were a couple years ago, though, and you were searching Dallas and the Lads or these other bands I was in, there was still a lot more of it was searchable. And I didn't take it down because I didn't want anyone to see it. I'm pretty proud of that stuff. But it all almost pretty much happened because I replaced it all with this YouTube channel that you're watching now. At that time, even though I was trying so die hard to do music between all my band stuff, I only ever had 80 subs when we started this channel. So I was that's all I cheated was 80 subs. I had 80 subs when I started this.
Would
channel.
you want to be in a band?
Hannah's laughing because I just said chubs.
Chubs. 80 chubs.
Would I want to be in a band again?
Yeah.
That's a great question. Yes. Absolutely. I would love to. I don't know how I would have time to do anything like that. But it's funny you asked this. I was going to do a podcast with Hannah maybe later this year, early next year, where we talked about it and kind of made a bucket list. I don't want to call it that because I have a to-do list on a note on my phone that's kind of a private thing of some things I want to accomplish. And I want to basically drop an album one of these days, but it's almost funny because it's become a cliche thing for YouTubers to randomly drop singles. I mean, all the way from like Logan Paul or someone like that dropping rap singles to, I don't know if you're familiar with Dream, the Minecraft YouTuber, but he drops some pretty interesting pop songs, and it's just kind of a thing that YouTubers do, and that's not what I want to do because there's a connotation that comes with that I feel like. This is probably a little bit ego, but I feel like I rise above because, you're not going to know as many people who've been on
Rise above, you got to rise above.
You're not going to run into as many people who have spent as much time on a stage as I have.
Right.
That isn't doing anything related to that anymore. So that being said, and you and I have talked about this privately, you're going to know this, these guys may not, but I would kill to be able to, on this channel, have as many viewers as our live shows on our main channel does. And go do live shows with music, almost like we're doing a Tonight Show, and have a performance at the end with the band. If I ever play music again in a public setting, that's probably what it's going to be. We'll basically do these podcasts like I am now, and there'll just be music and interviews with other people, and it won't just be this desk, 2 microphone laptops. It'll be a really involved show. Not so much late show as did you ever listen to the NPR shows that were live every day?
No,
it was kind of like late night before late night.
Well, I was gonna ask because we've seen in your YouTube videos that you play every instrument you come across.
True.
Which one do you prefer to play? Which one is your go-to? Which one's the one you like playing the most?
I see what you're doing here. You're turning this into an interview of me. It's very clever of you.
No, I'm just curious.
I'm just messing with you. No, it's fine.
I'm just curious.
No, that's a great question.
Everything you pick up, you're like, I say.
So that's a great question, and I'll be completely honest with you. I am classically trained to play the flute. So I can read sheet music. I can sight read sheet music for the most part. I probably couldn't do the advanced levels I did when I was a kid, but you put middle school, high school sheet music in front of me with the flute, I can play it with a band accurately right now.
Okay.
Without missing a beat. I can't read classical sheet music like that guy with the long hair in that video I just showed you guys. He was a classically trained guitar player. Okay. So he can sit there with how a classic guitar.
Right.
It's kind of like that with guitars, right? With mariachi guitars, they play these slightly enlarged guitars, and it's like this. Well, in a classical band, so I'm talking violent orchestra. I'm talking an orchestra. If there's a guitar player, it's on the lap. You have a footstool. You're doing this thing.
Right.
That guy could play music on site without missing a beat. Anything you put in front of him, he could interpret it on the guitar from the music without second thought. I never came a million light years away from that. Matter of fact, if you say play a C chord, I can play a C chord. If you say play some slightly more complicated chords, I can kind of go, well, I know what that is, so here's this. But if you put sheet music in front of me, even linear flute, a flute can only play one note, right? Whereas a guitar can play chords.
Yeah.
So even that, I could read the music and hear it in my head and go, well, me find that note, and I can kind of pick something out from there. So, but I can play guitar well enough to get by. Matter of fact, it's the only instrument outside of flute that like people have been like emergency. Hey, I need a guitar player. Can you kind of come do this? And be like, well, yeah. And of course, bass also, but simple. I'm not a great bass player, but I can hit those chord notes, those root notes, and be fine. But outside of that, I have had this lifelong obsession of being able to get by with just about anything. If you walked in this house and handed me any instrument, even weird things like a sitar, and give me an hour to go back there, I'll come back out here and play something for you. So that's why, like, one of these days, if we're ever popular enough to be like some channels, how people like love it so much they go make compilation videos, somebody will put together 100-clip compilation of me playing stupid instruments from our channel, because I mean, honest to God, I'm probably showing off, when I pick up that instrument. But like, I don't know how to read accordion music, but I understand the inner workings of accordion so well because I've noodled with one in a music store that I worked at enough that like I can fool you into play like I'm like playing some polka or something, and it's not actually easy to do. It's just a certain mechanic of movement. So the answer to how many questions can I play well is almost none. But how many can I like kind of fool you? Most of them. But I can, what's funny about that is, I'll die regretting how I just can't figure out how to play the drums.
Really?
I don't. It's multi-limb coordination. Not happening.
Yeah, I can't figure it out either. But you didn't answer my question. So all these instruments that are in front of you. Okay, they say you're going to play one of these in this band.
Yeah.
Which one are you going to go to?
Guitar.
Guitar.
Yeah. That was your question? I thought you just asked which ones I could actually play.
I don't. No, I know how many you could play because I've seen it on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, guitar.
But I want to know which one you enjoy playing the most.
Well, I enjoy guitar the most, but I'm not the best at it. If we're playing Jethro Tull covers, I'm playing the flute, because who's not going to be impressed with this 400-pound man just rocking that flute, right? That would probably be the most fun. And matter of fact, if money were no option, and we were just kind of washed up from doing what we're doing on YouTube right now, and I was like, let's just say fantasy world, okay? Follow me here, will you? We're at 1 million subs, and we kind of hit a wall, and we're kind of just tired of doing what we're doing. And I'm like, hey guys, I'm not going to post anything on this channel for the rest of the year. Go subscribe to our live show podcast channel, the Tendo Show, which is the channel this podcast is happening on. And we're going to start doing 2 shows a week, one live, one not. And the weekly show is going to have music and live stuff. I would show up on that first, if I could do whatever I wanted, I would show up on that first live show with a full band behind me, and I would be rocking the flute into a huge board of effects processors and playing the analog flute like it were a digital synth.
Gotcha.
I would be creating things like that. Just because that's the most unique out there thing I could possibly muster with my own creativity. That's where my heart's at as far as instruments go. But I wish I was a better guitar player. I never quite got there. I always had too many people around me that were way better. Mm-hmm. I was attracted to people's skills, and they were attracted to my like go get 'emness. Nobody else where I was from, what I was doing was just like, no matter what, I'm getting on that show. I would talk to whoever I had to. The vehicles I bought were to carry equipment. You know what I mean? It was all about playing shows. So that attracted a lot of musicians in my town to me. And that's kind of that. But you always talk like you're not that good at drums. And Monique setting off camera, like shaming him every time. He's like, but like,
I'm not that good. I was good enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to play punk. You can't play punk music if you don't know how to play the drums. It's not that simple. It's one thing to keep rhythm and time,
right,
and then to do it at hyperspeed is a completely different thing. And now there might be some people watching and comment below if this is the case, but if you know playing music at all, you know that it's not easy. I mean, matter of fact, when I first got into that, the first show of the first real band I was in, I played keyboard because they already had a bass player. I replaced a bass player a few months later, but I couldn't keep up the first few times. I was like, this is another level. I don't know how to do this.
I would force my band to write slow songs.
Just so you would have some?
Yeah, I was like, now.
Right.
Now. Play it now. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah,
it's my time to shine.
Yeah, play it now. I need a break.
That's funny. Well, I tell you what. when you guys moved here, I was like, man, I wish I could convince him to move to Phoenix, just because like you and me could be funny on some live shows and then surprise people, play some music.
Well, it's funny because when we moved here, I told Monique, I was like, damn. I was like, I wish we would have known. It's so funny because when we talk about our stories, how you guys were in Long Beach and then we were in Long Beach.
We lived blocks away in
Right.
California for like 3 years and didn't know.
And even LA to Phoenix is not that far.
Right.
And like, the Vegas bins, how we like the Vegas bins.
Right.
I was like, we could have done so much with these people.
Yeah. And we didn't know.
Yeah. But we were right there the whole time.
Yeah, we lived. We figured out we lived not even miles away from each other in
Yeah.
Vegas or in Long Beach for a stretch of years, and it sucks because I definitely had nothing to do when I lived there. My time in California. I mean, that's kind of not true because that's where I found things to do, and that's where I set myself on this path we're on now. But there was the first couple of years I was there where like we definitely could have got together and done something, but we just neither of us were doing YouTube. Or I wasn't. You probably kind of were at the time, but not really.
I've always done YouTube. It just always switched to what I was doing.
Right. You always had a rotation of hobbies, and whatever you got into, you would make your YouTube videos about that, which is kind of funny because that's just I do a glorified version of that now. People are like, Tendo's a thrifting channel, Tendo's a collector channel, Tendo's playing video games, Tendo's playing card games, and I do the same thing. I rotate my interests and then be like, surprise. And some people like it. Some people are ride or die for our channel, and some people are just like, this isn't what I subscribed for.
Right. Now I need you to make a flout.
I'll flout for you.
Flout channel.
The best.
Flautist.
Listen, the best food your people ever made are flautas. Flautas, baby.
It's just tortillas, meat. And
I know
vegetables.
it's not that complicated. Monique is just judging me hard. I'm telling you, I never had them until we lived in Long Beach. And the waitress at a Mexican restaurant, do you remember the name of it, Hannah? It's in Long Beach. And do you know the China? Give us a second. We're going to figure this out. There was a Chinese restaurant just as you left. You know how you like leave Long Beach on the highway and then IKEA's down the road a little bit?
Right.
Well, right there on an exit, a little before you get to IKEA, it's probably a little further away than I'm thinking, but there was a Chinese buffet, and it was like a blue building, and it burned down.
Yeah.
Hannah's got her hand up. Yes, Hannah. El Torito's. You ever eat El Torito's in Long Beach? Is it not good?
I mean,
Look at your face. Listen, I'm a white dude listen, our version of Mexican food in my hometown is very Americanized, very fancy.
El Torito is just...
So El Torito, I'm not saying there's anything special about
Yeah.
it, but it was like 3 blocks from our house. We just lived there. And so we would go there, and we were there once. I didn't try to tell you the name of the restaurant because like I loved it or anything. I just wondered if you knew where it was.
I think we would go to El Torito every once in a while. It was probably the same. See, we were probably right there.
We probably ate there at the
You
same
were
time.
over there. We were here.
Do you know the Chinese buffet across the street that I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I'm probably grossly under exaggerating the distance of these things because I'm way far removed from it. But we were in there one time eating, and
I know of a Chinese buffet restaurant that burnt down, and it's still there, burnt down, I think. But the El Torito's not near it. It's like down the freeway.
Hannah's shaking her head. Am I just wrong?
Well,
But it's down the road.
We drove by one day. We had just eaten there like a week ago, and we drove by and it was burned.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we know the one.
Yeah.
It's the one that had the crab legs all the time.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. So but that Chinese restaurant off the highway burning down, we ate there a lot too.
Yeah, because it was like up there, right? Like you're driving by and it was up there.
it was literally kind of on the top of a hill. Okay, sorry, catch up with us now.
Okay.
We're like we haven't even talked
Flautas.
Yes, flautas. I don't know what the F you were about to ask me, but you said flout, and I thought.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I need a Tendo flute channel.
Yeah, that could be cool, but I'm not that good. I'm Listen, I'm classically trained. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I
I
got that.
can play the music. I had those friends in high school that could beatbox and play the flute.
But
I couldn't do that.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah,
I
but
can't beatbox.
I want you to do with the synth and everything you talked about.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to start it. I mean, I'm going to become notorious one day for starting random ass channels, I guess. But I could do that. Or you could come to Phoenix, or we could both move to the same place next time we move, and we could actually play music on the internet. And I'll do that. You drum. It'll just be a drum and flute band.
No.
Nobody in this room sounds interested.
You see that?
Just thinking about playing.
But I drum with this one.
Yeah, I'll play the alto flute too, so it's a little bassier, a little lower, a little weird. Interesting.
But even I mean, since you were asking me about my history, my historia,
yeah,
all that music, I love playing music and stuff, but I always loved art, painting more.
okay.
That would be my first passion.
And
I kind of just want a drum set just so I could put it at the back of my house,
yeah.
put some headphones on, put some music I like on, and just smash the drums
Right.
to it and just de-stress and just have a good time.
I'm
you know,
jealous of that.
relax.
I'm jealous of that because you can't de-stress playing the flute.
You're gonna crunch it.
I think you can play the guitar. You can get pretty gnarly on a guitar, but I understand that. I understand that. So, is what you're saying is like I'm not ever going to be able to convince you to go live with me on the internet? Play the drums?
I probably will. I know you could ask me and I'll do
Yeah.
it. I mean,
Well, I do hope we find some opportunity to do so one day.
Yeah.
I enjoy hanging out with you guys enough, and we have the same kind of history, and we might as well relive our glory days together.
Right.
Why not? Is what I'm saying. So last question about the music, and then we'll talk a little bit about YouTube. I think before we quit this, do you have any real hopes of playing music again, other than just kind of owning a drum set? Or maybe this was a better question for Monique, because I feel like you're not going to be entirely honest. Not that I'm calling you a liar, but like you're kind of guarded about your musical aspirations and history. And Monique's across the room shaking her head.
what was your question? I could answer.
Well, because like how I was talking about earlier, like you asked me a really simple question about me and music and what do I play, and I gave you this ridiculous over the top answer about one day want to do live shows. Like what like is maybe your answer was just I'd like to have a drum set in the back of the house and blow off steam, but like
no, I would love to be in a
because that's what you asked me. Would I like to be in a band again? You just answer that question.
yeah. I would like to be in a band again when I'm like 60, but I want to play I want to play a metal band.
Right.
60-year-old dudes just playing metal music.
I'm into that.
But like Anthrax, Megadeth type stuff, and we're like 60 years
But
old,
like-
and we're playing at bars.
But ballad covers of those heavy songs. Because you're gonna be too old to
Nah,
move your arms
bro,
that fast.
no, I
You
don't
want to
wanna
go
do that. I
hard?
wanna
You want
go
to be
hard,
60
yeah.
and go hard? Okay, I'm into that. Well, that was a good chat about music. I think there were some other things I was going to say because back at the beginning of the show, you said something about the guy booking you shows that were weird, and I just want to move on, but I want to pay this off because someone's going to realize that I said I was going to tell a story and I didn't. But I let a guy was so hardcore about playing with us. He's like, "Let me play with you. I'll get you some shows." He wanted to play lead guitar,
Right?
And he got us this show, and I'm comparing this to you playing with it's not mariachi, but what did you call it?
Banda. Norteñas, bro.
He got us a show at a fair, which was kind of up our alley. And I thought nothing of it. We showed up, and this is just like, it was kind of like a small rodeo. We should have been playing country music, is what these people were expecting. And we played emo, kind of dashboard confessional, Mayday Parade type stuff. And it was one of the few times I played somewhere completely out of place. This didn't happen a lot because I was very heavily involved in playing shows, but I know I'm jealous that you had that situation and people were into it because I guess white people aren't as accepting, in that kind of social setting, expecting music.
I mean, that's true because once you give Hispanics, in this case, they were all Mexican, beer, they were just having a good time.
A beer and a beat.
Yeah, they're just having a good time.
And I can appreciate that. That's not, that's not the case for white people. It's unfortunately not. And if you would like more on that, just go watch some Chappelle Show skits. He's got plenty of stuff that explains all this stuff. Like, what's the one sketch about something about black people and drums and then white people and guitar? It's funny. Google it. We're not going to watch it here. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about YouTube. We've got a little bit more time in the show before we quit. Tell me a little bit about your beginning aspirations of doing YouTube, because again, I tried to explain back at the beginning of the show. I don't know how good of a job I did, but I mean, Ivan and I are YouTubers. That's a huge part of kind of our self-worth at this moment in our lives.
When I first started YouTube, Monique actually started her YouTube channel.
Okay, it's still up now. I've seen you have a channel with some videos on it. I've seen them.
And I was like, that's kind of cool because I was like into recording stuff and whatever, and she was doing it. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Right.
And she was doing her hauls and stuff like that. And now I wasn't too familiar with YouTube. I
Right.
didn't know what was on YouTube. I just knew people recorded stuff and they put it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw what she was doing, going to Dollar Tree, doing her hauls, or, makeup stuff, whatever.
Right.
And I was like thinking I was like a genius. I was like, I'm gonna do this, but for dudes. Like I'm gonna go
Nice.
buy toys, do a toy haul, do a these are my art pencils haul. This is
Yes.
whatever. And then, because I had no idea what was on YouTube, and then I go to YouTube and I start looking stuff up, and I was like, "Oh my god, all this already exists."
And there's people with millions of views.
Yeah, and there's
doing
people with millions of views. But it was cool. I just started doing it I started a toy channel, kind of reviews. And a little bit later, I worked at a comic book store, so they kind of took advantage of that and gave me new toys that came out that day to go home and review, as long as I promoted the comic book store.
Nice.
And they would give me the toy or whatever it was,
That's a cool start.
It was cool, and I thought it's what I wanted to do, but after a while I got burnt out because
Yeah.
there was a lot of tough
Well,
stuff.
you can only review so many action figures before it's...
Yeah, and then I was like, I had to do it.
Yeah.
I had to do it. As to where before it was just like, I found this. This is cool. Let me talk about it.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to talk about this.
So that's the first YouTube thing you did.
That's the first YouTube thing I did. And then I've done like a horror one where I went to filming locations. I went to cemeteries and stuff. And
I think I've seen a little bit of that because you on your channel as it is now, you've kind of aired some of that stuff.
Right.
Like when we were locked down, I think during COVID or something.
Yeah.
Like you had to do something, so you put some of that stuff up.
yeah, and just it's anything that had to do with like movies. Just all kinds of stuff. Just anything that had to do with like pop culture or whatever.
Was all this stuff technically on the channel that you have now on that?
No, I've just done new
Okay.
emails and
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I've kind of done that and kind of not. And also it gets more complicated. If you don't know how this works, if you have a Gmail account, you technically have a YouTube channel. Now, you may not use it as a channel where you upload stuff, but like I signed up for Gmail. When did it come out? 2010, 11, 12,
Probably,
something
yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
And I don't think I had a YouTube account before that. I remember YouTube when it first came out, but I just had the same account. Friends followed it early on, like it was social media. And that's probably how I had 80 or so followers at that time. But I didn't do a lot other than just posting our music throughout the years on these channels. And so I never really had any kind of serious channel or any attempt quite as serious as what you're talking about, except for, I think, 2 years almost to the day, like to the week, certainly, before we started this channel. I had a stroke of inspiration. It was basically Casey Neistat. I was
Right,
watching him. He was
yeah.
doing daily vlogs. And I said, I'm capable of this. I was like, I get what he's doing. I get how a lot of people would think that daily posting is like a mind effer, like this would be hard. But I was like, I can do it. And so I posted a daily vlog for 2 weeks in a row. And by the end of it, I was super burnt out.
Yeah.
Which is really funny because the kind of work that I did on the road for hire at that time was astronomically harder and stuff. But it wasn't internally creative. It wasn't, because you know what this is like. When you wake up and today's the day you shoot your video for your YouTube channel, you have some responsibility on your shoulders to wake up and do this hyper creative thing that's you, and that's done in a way that people are expecting it to be done, right? Well, I'd never tried this. I'd only just done all this professional work. I'd written songs, and so I tried this on the YouTube channel as it is now, or this page, not this page, but my main page. We're on a podcast page right now, but I did it in 2 weeks is what it took. And the 14th day, I was like, I don't know how I could ever think of how to do this every day for years on end. Mind you, Casey Neistat did it for 3 or 4 years. But I was like, okay, he's clearly a better man than me. I can't keep doing it. And then it went about 2 years after that where I just didn't do anything with it. It was always in the back of my head, but I just didn't do anything. And then I don't know what it was one day. I think I finally was like just done with my previous videography career. And I told Hannah, I was like, I got to do something. Gonna start a YouTube channel. And I made a video like, hey guys, I'm going to be posting daily on this channel.
Right.
And I had no subs. And I was saying that to nobody, but I was just trying to give myself accountability. And we posted a daily YouTube video, as a lot of you watching are going to know. And as Ivan certainly knows, for a year and a half, 800 videos or so in a row, and that's what got us to a YouTube channel with 10,000, 11,000 subs and a podcast channel. And
I want to see you guys do shark noms again.
yeah,
I watched all your old videos because I found you guys during the shutdown,
and you went back to the beginning, and
I watched everything from the beginning, and then
you're one of those people.
Yeah,
there's not many, because I mean, even those videos still only have like 120 views.
It's because I found your channel and I was like, this is what I want to watch. This is exactly what I'm looking for. There's like 2-3 channels maybe that I have done that with.
Right. Well, I appreciate you watching those.
Yeah.
If you don't know what he's talking about, shark noms, I probably lied to you that couple years before where I tried daily vlogging and then didn't. There was a few things we posted. Matter of fact, there's a kind of highly viewed video on our channel that was in between that period where Hannah was doing food reviews of restaurants.
Right.
And we went and reviewed Chipotle's new queso.
Queso adobo or whatever.
When they first got their spicy queso. And we did one of a specific Phoenix, Arizona pizza chain, and that pizza chain video still gets views today. It still comes up in search.
Oh, really?
So when people search that restaurant to see if it's good, they watch Hannah's review, which is interesting. Yeah. But we're talking about a culmination that 2 weeks of daily videos. We're talking about less than 20 videos that are on my channel that have just kind of been around for a long time, and that was all my start.
Actually, talking about you asked me about my old channels. It's funny because when I first met you and I was on your channel, on your video, that one video, I looked at your comments and I saw that some people recognized me from another popular YouTuber,
which is nuts.
Yeah, Wet Movie One. He's all about DVDs and movies and stuff.
Is he still going?
He's still going. He's still out there. We're still homies and stuff.
That's cool.
And yeah, I was on his channel a lot. Just cause it was just like you, like we just ended up just hanging out and
right. Well, I guess you could probably tell that story of how we met, but I do want to say it almost seems weird that happened and someone recognized you, but
right.
And YouTube's such a small world that kind of thing has happened to us a bunch. It's a small world.
Shout out to Brendan. What's up, Brendan? If you're watching.
But yeah, I guess for those of you watching that don't know how Ivan and I met, tell them, because it's kind of interesting why you were in Phoenix when you were.
Lockdown. It was somewhat lockdown. Monique's dad invited us to Laughlin.
Yeah.
We went to Laughlin. We went to the river, and we weren't working yet. This time we had lost our jobs already because of COVID. So I told Monique we had already binge watched your videos, so I knew that Phoenix had a bunch of Goodwills and thrift
Phoenix,
stores.
as far as thrifting goes, Phoenix, Arizona is heaven on earth.
So I told Monique, I was like, you know what? We're not that far from Phoenix. Let's take a drive down there. What else are we going to do?
4.5 hours?
Yeah. I was like, what else are we going to do? And she's like, all right, let's do it. We went down there, got a hotel room and everything. The next day we went out. First Goodwill we walked into, you guys
I'm standing there looking at the video games.
We were in line to pay, and Monique was like, there he is. And I was like,
across the thrift store there.
Yeah. He's like, there he is. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, man. And she's like, why don't you go say something? I was like, nah, I don't want to bug him.
Yeah.
And because seeing you in person for the first time, you're a lot bigger.
Right.
In real life.
You know, you're a big dude. That's not bad for me to say, right?
Not.
You're right.
I'm big,
No.
I'm big this way.
Right, but
you're bigger this way.
You're funny because, like, if I look at you, I go, the same way people have reactions to me, like there's a big, you probably get that a lot in public sometimes, or maybe even around, your people, your family. You're kind of big for a Mexican guy. Is that fair to say? I'm trying not to, like, I'm not putting you down.
Yeah.
But
yeah, my people came down from the hills.
Yeah. Your people came down from the hills. My last name's Blanton. We're from the hills of eastern Kentucky. Oh, well, we can talk about some people coming down from the hills, but you, in my head, are a bigger guy, right? But it's so funny me sitting here. I've got what your feed looks like on my screen, and you look small next to me. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just agreeing with you. I know what you mean by seeing that.
I am shorter than you.
Right, for sure. And I just have these like 4 foot wide shoulders, and I'm sitting here like spilling out, but. It's just funny hearing you say, because you're kind of you're an average size or a average size plus a little bigger, and so like in my head you register as a big dude. Like I don't feel like I tower over you like I do most people. Or like if Monique were standing over here beside me, I'd be like, "Bink." You know?
It's rare for me to feel like a little person.
Right.
Next to you, I do feel like a smaller person.
Right.
Which is hard to do with me.
Right.
Because normally I'm always taller than everybody else. But you come around and I'm like, or we get in the car together.
And I'm like spilling over on you.
Or like that one time we both rode in your smart car.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was
Go
funny.
back and watch our Vegas video with these guys. Just scroll back a little ways. It's in the thumbnail. But continue your story.
Anyways, yeah. So Monique was like, she's like, there he is, and I was like, oh, you know, I said that. Oh, you know, and she's like, go say hi to him, and I was like, nah, I'm good, man. I was like, I'll let him do his thing, whatever. And I was like, no, you know what? I was like, I'm gonna go say
Right.
hi. And I went over there, and you were going through the video games. I was like, oh, hey man, what's up, dude? I was like, Tendo, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Well, it's so funny. It's so funny too because and the reason we ended up connecting and continuing to talk after that is like you guys were thinking about you guys were essentially taking that trip because
We were looking to move out of LA.
right. You were going to move out of LA and you had a list of places to go check out. On which was also Texas, which is where you guys ended up,
Right.
Because you hate my guts and you weren't gonna. No, I wouldn't suggest. Other than for the thrifting, there's no reason to go to Phoenix. Thrifting is number one. Number one reason not to is the heat. Just don't do it. Don't go to Phoenix. But it's that's how we kind of ended up hooking up, connecting, and then we ended up just. I mean, I guess we came here first. And then you guys came there once.
Yeah, you came here first.
We've been to Vegas once together, and this is our fourth time doing some stuff.
Yeah, because
together.
after the first time we hung out and you came here, we were like, okay, we're not serial killers.
None of us are going to kill each
Yeah,
other,
yeah.
which is strangely a real fear when you do the kind of thing that we
Right.
do. But I wanted to say it was a really interesting chance encounter too, because we just happened to be at that thrift store. The thrift store we met at is nowhere near our house, but it is next door to one of our bins. I'm sorry, to one of our antique malls. And I guess that's kind of also why you guys were there.
Yeah.
It was always obvious in our videos. And people do this, by the way. A lot of people, if they happen to be coming to Phoenix, they go search out our antique malls. Like, if you're thinking he's a weirdo, hundreds of people do it a year.
You're right.
Yeah, you're dead right.
Yeah, we went to that location. We looked for your booth, and I was like, just look for the yellow.
Can't
thing.
miss it.
And then there was a Goodwill next door, and that's when we walked in there.
Right. And it's funny because to hear Monique tell the story, she tells the same story. She was just like slapping you, like, "Come on, just go, you dumb." You're like, "No, I don't want to bother him."
Nah, she got nervous when she saw Hannah too.
She did the same thing. I haven't
She's
heard.
like, there's the tall one right there.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's funny. It's really funny too because pre-COVID, Hannah and I being recognized in public because of our YouTube channel happened just like 2 or 3 times. Not very much. Once, the first time at a thrift store, this lovely couple. Hannah, do you remember their names? Hannah's really good with names. She had remembered their names for a long time. But anyways,
I'm terrible with the names. They say hi to me.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm usually impressed by how well she remembers that kind of thing. She's looking it up. She wrote it down on her phone. This is how kind Hannah is. When we've seen people in public, and Hannah will like walk up and like whisper their names in my ear. And she writes it down and she remembers. She takes notes.
She's like, this is Barbara.
Barbara, she has 2 kids and a cat named Chester. Yeah. How's Chester, Barbara? Nathan and Marilyn. I would dying to know if you guys are still watching because I'm talking 800 subs,
right?
1,000 subs. What, Hannah? What are you laughing at?
Ivan and Monique are no longer on my list.
You took them off? Hannah deleted Ivan and Monique from her list because they're not hard to remember anymore.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say they recognize us in public, and then a kid, a really young kid, like 17, 18 years old, this dude if he's watching, I kind of doubt it because he was more of a casual watcher, but he knew who we were at, what's the restaurant? El
Torito.
Panda Express. We were eating at a Panda Express.
David.
I'm telling you, she's got it on her phone. His name was David. I wish I just remember this and it sounded really cool because we're talking years ago now, a year and a half, 2 years ago. This is pre-COVID, and there's probably one more person that was just like, "Hey, love what you do," and then after that, lockdown happened, and we grew in popularity, and then our biggest spike in popularity happened after the lockdown was up. And we got to go thrifting for the first time. Our channel exploded, and then it started happening every other day that we were recognized in public in Phoenix, which is not a huge feat.
Are you guys used to that now?
That's what I'm getting at. You were That was post lockdown, right when
Yeah,
some
post-lockdown.
stores opened back up and you could go to Goodwill, but you had to have a mask. You were like one of the first people then to recognize this and say something. So when I met you, I was still on the nervous spectrum. This is the point of me saying this. When we met you guys, I was still like trying to be cool, but I was like, oh God, he knows who I am.
Right.
But after that, though, that was a week or two after lockdown. So after that, I definitely, nowadays we go out on Monday on a half off Savers, and it's like we're just driving down the street to Savers, like, hey, Tendo! Like, you do get used to it.
Right. Yeah, we're still not used to it.
It's still weird, right? Well, I can understand. The first couple times, it's like, holy crap, what?
Especially when it's in a random spot. And
If it's not in a thrift store,
yeah.
yes, 100%.
Hi, man.
What's the weirdest place you've been recognized in public that wasn't a thrift store?
I don't know. I don't remember. I think it's.
I've definitely got an
I
answer.
can't. I off the top of my head, I don't.
Well,
remember.
think about it while I say for us. Oh wow, I'm kind of drawing a blank too. Well, there's a couple. There's someone running across the grocery store parking lot. No thrift store in sight. That one was pretty interesting. Not gonna go into too many specifics, but Hannah, what's one of the weirder ones? I mean, Panda Express was weird because that one was so earlier on.
I think that's actually. Now that you said that, I think that's probably the weirdest places. Parking lots.
Just
Hearing your name. Hi, man.
and probably in a town you're not really used to people knowing you.
Especially like hearing.
Just Hannah's miming driving, just like people shouting our names from their vehicles on the highway.
Like we're at a stoplight and so
Hey, Tendo! Yeah, well, we do it to ourselves too because we drive wildly recognizable vehicles, which is not really on purpose. I like the flair of it. Well, and the practicality of my bread truck. So we go anywhere in that bread truck in Phoenix. People are like, "Hey, Tendo, what's up?"
Yeah.
I will say, I'll tell you guys one story. I don't think I've told it on the channel. The probably funniest day of being recognized in public. We go to a Savers on Half Off Monday, which again, if I want to feel important, I go to Savers on Monday. I don't actually do this because I want to feel important. I go because I'm going to the thrift store. But if I was ever down and needed to pick me up, I could go to Savers in Phoenix on a Monday, half off day, and every store, everywhere I go, someone's going to recognize me. So one day we show up to Savers, right? And we're walking across the parking lot. Someone's like, "Hey, Tendo," and this is a bit after COVID, so there's a line outside. They only let like 100 people in the store.
Right.
We're walking up the line, and 3 different people are like, "Hey, Tendo, you can get in front of me. Come hang out with us." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to cut in front of these other people, but hey, I'll check you out in the store." 3 people in line. So by this time, the people in the line are like, "Who is this guy?" Right? And so we go get in the very back of the line, and 2 or 3 people while we're in the back of the line, as we're moving up to the line, driving down the road are like, "Hey, Tendo!" It's just like the 9th time people in line have heard someone shout our name. And then people coming out of the store are coming back to the line to talk to us. It's just pure coincidence at this point. I mean, it's just everybody thrifts. Everyone that thrifts and consumes YouTube in Phoenix either already did Savers Half Off Monday or we inspired them to. So it's just kind of a coincidental thing. But the funny anecdote about that is that all of a sudden the people in the line started treating us like we were famous. And like I saw people snapping pictures of us that didn't know who we were because the people were shouting about us. And of course they heard people shout my name so much that they were standing in line and Googling us. So that's my answer to that question. That was definitely the weirdest one.
It's funny because sometimes I do get that comment on YouTube where they're like, "It was you."
Right.
Like, because we were at the same thing, but I would have my cap on, my glasses, and at the time, my mask.
Okay. Well, yeah, that helps a lot, the mask.
Yeah, and they'd be like, "That was you guys. Like, I saw you guys. I was right there. I'm in the video. I'm right there." And,
Yeah, that's me at this frame. That's funny. Well, that's really funny. If you guys are watching and you aren't subscribed to Ivan Money's channel, please do so. If you want a nice way to ease into it, there's definitely 5 or 6 videos on your channel with us in them.
Yeah.
So you can go search those out and then just let YouTube keep autoplay them. I don't really have any more questions saved up about YouTube, though I definitely think one of these days down the road we can definitely do a whole podcast just about our YouTube experiences, because you're one of the very few people I can talk to that can even moderately understand some of the weirder aspects of doing it.
Yeah.
But do you have any questions for me before we wrap this up? YouTube or otherwise? Can you think of anything? Anything else you want to talk about? Get out off your chest, promote, or anything before the podcast is over?
Not right now. Promote. Just check out our channel.
Check out their channel. Please do. There'll be a link in the comments, in the video's description, maybe even in the title of this video. Several places you can click on to go subscribe to their channel. And definitely make sure you're subscribed to this channel because I don't know if it'll be the very next podcast. It should be, but we'll have a podcast for you guys with Monique and Hannah. So check that out. Come back next time, guys. And until then, peace out.